Namaste and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sat means truth, Logos means a study or science, Sattology means the science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means means a fake lie, imagination, Sanskrit word. Mythology means a study or science of fake lie or imagination. The mythology destroys our identity while Sattology builds our identity. And that's the case for all the natives of the world. Today, as usual, we have very important, like India is just recognized to be the fastest growing economy for 2022. And it is said to be 9.5%, which is a very high number. At the same time, there is a growing Indo-US relations. So we have very, very special guest who has worked in the Indian Navy, and he speaks on strategic affairs. He has written a beautiful book on Balakot airstrikes and the history and why it has been done. Must read that book. So without delay, let us welcome Navy officer Manan Bhatt.
Jai Hind. Jai Hind. Hello everyone.
So what do you have to say? What's like in the neighborhood, we see that China and India, there is a conflict situation right now, and it is very easy to say what should be done. But before we get on to that, what do you think is the actual thing happening between China and India?
China, as usual, is a very aggressive country and is trying to play some mind games with India. But it didn't work their way this time. An incident that happened, I think last week, an incident happened in Tawang, in Arunachal Pradesh, where the Chinese troops, around 200 Chinese troops, tried to invade India. They were trying to ingress into our lands. As everyone knows, that Indian Army was ready to receive them. A few of the Chinese troops were captured. I think the number was around 10 or 20. They were given some good treatment and were sent back after requests from Chinese. On the backdrop of this incident, China released some photographs which were supposedly from the previous year's Galwan incident. This China's mouthpieces, their government mouthpieces, they declared that these photos were released unofficially, and somebody leaked these photos on Weibo, their social media website. But it wasn't the case. As usual, Chinese were trying to play some mind games and show that the defeat that they had at Tawang in the hands of the Indian Armed Forces was actually a victory by just indulging into the information warfare. This is what they try to do, and actually the Chinese were caught red-handed, and in the next meeting at Moldo, the 13th round of Indo-China military engagement at Moldo, the talks failed due to Chinese. They were not wanting to give away anything to India, and that is why the talks failed. So they keep on doing this, but things are quite clear. The harsh winter of Ladakh Himalaya is setting up. Around India has amassed around 50,000 troops in their side. China has not equal, at least not more, but at least equal number of troops on their side. And due to their aggressive attitude, these troops will have to spend their winter in such harsh environment where temperatures go as low as 30 degree centigrade. So things are going to be difficult for both the countries and the soldiers of both the countries. But as we have seen last year also, that Indian troops are well acclimatized and they are well equipped to even fight at high altitude areas in low temperature areas. And we have shown our abilities during Kargil War, when we defeated in 1999, when we defeated Pakistan in their own game. So India and China both are in for a long winter. let us see what happens next.
According to the ancient history, including we have very good recorded histories of Mahabharata, very well recorded, in which Prag Jyotishpur is Guwahati, and north of it was always Indian land. Lhasa was a Shakti Peeth, and later on it became a Buddhist monastery. But we all know that the Buddhist monasteries were built on an ancient temple generally. That place is being worshipped there, and then Kailash Parvat is there, which is everybody knows it's a place of pilgrimage for Hindus. Xinjiang was a province which was just below Uttar Kuru, and it is always there, a part of India's spiritual pilgrimage centers. You know, if they say they came up with the imaginary lines, we have too many evidences to prove that it has always been our land. Too many. In fact, the China which is mentioned in Mahabharata is only on the northeast part of China where the Beijing is today. Other than that, there was Chin. It's an ancient name. Chin is also named from Mahabharata, also written by Vyasdev. So it is recorded in our history. So don't you think a change of mindset is needed to deal with China? Because their mindset is just expansionist. Like they want to claim border post at a time. That's what they work on. So do we need a change over here?
China has been indulging in salamis rising with neighboring nations. India has not allowed them to do that. They've seen our response, our strongness during Galwan incident, and even during subsequent incidents in Arunachal Pradesh, where they are claiming that it is a contested land. Everywhere, whenever, be it Indian Ocean region, be it Arunachal Pradesh, be it Ladakh, Indian Army has been giving red nose to China. Yes, as far as information warfare, and we know that China is time and again issuing some maps and saying that this land was theirs, this is their ancient Chinese land. The such kind of doubtful claims they are always making. So India has to evolve in a way that we start developing our own information warfare strategies, our own ways to tackle with Chinese claims. It has to be done, but on the other hand, nobody in the world nowadays takes China seriously and takes that claims seriously, because this is what they have been doing with Vietnam. This is what they have been doing in South China Sea, and this is what they have been doing with India since maybe 1959. So this is a game that they want India to draw into their traps, but India will not budge, and we have enough strong military to tackle their hegemony.
A small country like UK maintains an expeditionary force. They have no threat from either France or Belgium or any of those countries. They have no threat, but still they maintain a very strong expeditionary force, and that's how they project power. We have not seen that happening in case of India. We don't have an expeditionary force. We tried that in the IPKF time, and we tried in Maldives, but we do not have a dedicated expeditionary force, even though Navy has some vessels which can do that, but we have not done it through the ocean. Uh, do you think there is a need for that now?
Uh, as far as Britain is concerned, their colonial concept and their expressionism is a well-known fact. So they have been expansionist and colonial. But as far as India is concerned, we have certain core values that we follow since we got independence, and we are trying to maintain that. We have faced certain hiccups when we sent our troops abroad. India has been sending peacekeeping forces, but as far as expeditionary forces are concerned, India has not been into that mold. I don't know, over a period of time when India will become an economic might, India might consider to send troops abroad to fight others' war, to maintain peace. Whenever our friendly nations are in trouble, whenever our friendly countries, we have sent our troops, as in case of Maldives also, we can see that. But Sri Lanka, when India has sent troops to fight their own Tamilian brothers, wasn't correct example. So India is a very diverse country, and the diversity itself, it is a thing that you don't want to send your troops to countries where your friendlies or your own countrymen are there, or they are fighting for their own freedom. So there is a thin line that we have to maintain, and India is able to do that. As of now, I must say that India has a big waterline to defend. India has a big borderline to defend. So we are, if we are able to do that successfully, that is, I think, should be more than enough for us.
If you look at Mahabharata or Ramayana, all histories are filled with expeditionary forces. Arjun was north of Uttar Kuru, which is Kyrgyzstan. North of Uttar Kuru is Siberia, actually, and they were on the west also. They were going to Turkey and other places. The concept of ancient Indian military was always to defend Bharat from forces of the point of origin. That's where they used to take care of it, not at the border. Borders were largely protected by the local kings. That was the ancient, I'm an ancient history student. So this is where it used to happen. So the India's first line of defense was Gandhar. Bharat's first line of defense was Gandhar, not Punjab. That was called Panchnad in Mahabharata, and that was not Panchnad. First line of defense from the north was Uttar Kuru. Kyrgyzstan was the first line of defense, not Hastinapur. Nobody could come to Hastinapur. We were made to forget all these things through division and through modern history writers, which we are correcting now, slowly. And our first line of defense on the east was Malay Desh. Malay Desh is Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Yavudvip. This was the first line of defense. So that's why Bharat was very peaceful, because you cannot have trade and commerce and education and spiritual pursuits if your land is not secured. So all our kings ensured success like that. So Lanka, Simaladesh, Indonesia, Malay Desh, and then on the west it was Gandhar was the first line of defense. And beyond that was again a civilization, and in the north was Kyrgyzstan and up. Have we forgotten all those things, or we are still working on the colonial mindset of just protecting borders? Because this is what is happening is now others are going to fight a war on our borders, inside our land. There is no buffer zone. What is your view on that?
That is very correct. I will agree with you, because see, Kautilya's Arthashastra, the latest remaining record of ancient India's way of war fighting is the proof, is enough proof of that how our wars should be fought, and as Kautilya has included war fighting army in his Arthashastra. So army is basically a part of Arthashastra. If you want to expand your Arthashastra, you cannot read or study leftist ideology. You have to study Kautilya for your Arthashastra. And it has 15, I think, Adhikarnas or books. The 9th Adhikarna of Kautilya's Arthashastra, it deals with preparation of war, and it describes kind of troops that should be mobilized for an expedition, the proper seasons for starting an expedition, the precautions that are needed to be taken, and the dangers that have to be guarded before starting, and so on. So if we go back to our roots, if the army decides that on one fine day, I wonder that if we have a Eureka, the army will have, or the armed forces will have a Eureka moment. That the study on, there are various studies on Kautilya's Arthashastra in the Indian Army also. There are official studies, but this Arthashastra or the way of, I would say, the dharmic way of war fighting has to be taken in true spirit. If we accept it in a true spirit, then only we will be able to realize our roots. We will be able to have pride in our roots, and we should rather move with things which like the wetting the stripes of an officer with rum is not a correct way to, because the officer of an armed forces or the soldier of an armed force is basically fighting a dharma yuddha. He's protecting his motherland from the enemies of dharma. तो जो बंदा धर्म युद्ध के लिए जा रहा है उसको रम से it is a basically a Christianized way or westernized way of dealing with things. And I don't think that it's a proper indigenized way to do it. The Indian Armed Forces have to evolve, and they have to look at things from a point of view of dharma, from point of view of making things indigenized more, because you cannot go and win wars by following something which was given to you through an invader, through a colonial country, which or precisely I must say that through Britain. We do not want to fight our wars in a way that Britain has taught us. We must evolve, and by means of evolving, if I'm saying we must evolve, I want India, I wish, or every Indian wish, that Indian Armed Forces too should go back to the basics first. We must evolve our war strategies from Kautilya's Arthashastra, from Mahabharata, or from the wars that Mata Durga or Shivji had with Rakshasas. This is how we can evolve our war strategies. We can make them indigenized. We can this is where we lack, and we should go. This is the way to go.
The whole world looks up to India as a pillar of justice. Even today, India may be, but India has taken international stand. Somewhere the dharmic genes come in, and they do take wise decisions many times. And so far, they've done a very good job in last 75 years, whatever the governments may be, but they maintain continuity of a common thought of non-aligned movement, which I really like, because you cannot align themselves with United States or any of these countries, because they are all colonies of Britain. British, UK, US is also a colony of Britain, which is people do not realize that. Australia, New Zealand, and they always work in together. So can you imagine a country which the President Biden said down under, which is Australia? He forgot the name, so he said down under. How can it be a Western country? It's in the Asia Pacific. It cannot be a Western country. And if you look at the deep history of these lands, you know that how the British took over the land and killed all the aborigines. Most of those aborigines have the same gene chromosome as you and me. That means some of our ancestors went there. And if you look at the Malaya Desh, Philippines, Indonesia, they all have the same gene as you and me, same gene chromosome they have. I forgot the name, DNA chromosome, same one. Slight variations are always there within India also. There's slight variations every 100 kilometers. Now, same people, they look like us. They call them blacks or animals. That's what they call them, Australians. We have been so busy, we have been or kept busy with problems created on our borders. So that means that somebody else is following Kautilya Arthashastra, not us. They are following it, and we are on the other receiving end of it. And so I have not seen a single paper coming out so far. Maybe I am ignorant about it. There must be some papers where somebody has analyzed these situations, that somebody is playing the Kautilya Arthashastra on us while we are talking about Kautilya Arthashastra from Bharat. So why do you think we have ignored such a big thing, and we are still following the colonial mindset, where in our expeditionary nature, like we should be claiming Lhasa, which is a Durga Shakti Peeth, which is a Durga Naumi is there. Durga Shakti Peeth is there, and we should be claiming Xinjiang. So where is the weakness right now?
Weakness of every Indian, I think. The lack of Vedanta education, the education that in ancient India every Indian used to get. The colonial Macaulay's education has made things worse. Indian Armed Forces, for me, are very communal. The word that the so-called leftists or secularists use. Let me give you an example of Paramveer Chakra. The Paramveer Chakra medal itself is based on the front of it. It has Vajra, which is the Ayudh of Indra. On the back of it, it has got Shivaji's sword, that is the Bhavani sword. So our Ashoka Stamp, that has 4 pillars, that has 4 lions. That is also a religious symbol of the chakra, the Dharma chakra, that lies at the center of our flag. That is also a very dharmic symbol. You cannot while taking decisions, it is there in our DNA. Dharma that we say, that Sanatan Dharma is there in our DNA. Ours is not a religion that people say. Sanatan Dharma is in our DNA, and whenever a decision is taken, whenever we choose our symbols, Dharma reflects. Now, if we go deeper, the first Paramvir Chakra of India, Major Somnath Sharma, from the battlefield, he was somebody who defended Badgam when Pakistani Kabylis were marauding Srinagar. We're going to enter Srinagar very soon, and he with the help of only 50 men, his 50 men were able to kill 300 of Pakistani army soldiers. And you know what, he's famous for his words that दुश्मन हमसे केवल 50 गज की दूरी पर है, हमारी गिनती बहुत कम रह गई है, हम भयानक गोलीबारी का सामना कर रहे हैं, फिर भी हम एक इंच पीछे नहीं हटेंगे और अपनी आखिरी गोली और आखिरी सैनिक तक डटे रहेंगे. He's famous for these words, but the very important words that are not coming into public, because people don't want to say that Indian Army is basically a very, very dharmic institution, and it follows it. Every soldier follows it. Is his last letter. His last letter from the battlefield to his father. What he writes to his father is, I think everybody who is listening to us, who is watching us, must know that there is a famous shloka of Bhagavad Gita, Nanan Chidanti Shastrani, Nanan Dahati Pavaka, Nachayana Kledayantapo, Nashoshayati Maruta. It is a very famous shloka. In 1941, when Somnath Sharma was fighting for Britain, and he was in the World War, he writes to his father that मैं अपने सामने आए कर्तव्य का पालन कर रहा हूँ, यहाँ मौत का क्षणिक डर जरूर है, किंतु जब मैं गीता में भगवान कृष्ण के वचन को याद करता हूँ तो वह डर मिट जाता है. भगवान कृष्ण ने कहा था कि आत्मा अमर है, तो फिर क्या फर्क पड़ता है कि शरीर है या नष्ट हो गया. पिताजी, मैं आपको डरा नहीं रहा हूँ, लेकिन अगर मैं मर गया तो मैं आपको ये यकीन दिलाता हूँ कि मैं एक बहादुर सिपाही की मौत मरूंगा. मरते समय मुझे प्राण देने का कोई दुख नहीं होगा. ईश्वर आप सब पर अपनी कृपा बनाए रखें. एवरी सोल्जर, आदि शंकराचार्य जी ने एक जो अद्वैत वेदांत दिया है, विच इज पार्ट ऑफ द वेदांता, उसे अगर आपको 2 शब्दों में, इफ यू वांट टू एक्सप्रेस वेदांता, अद्वैतवाद इन जस्ट 2 वर्ड्स, यू से अहम ब्रह्मास्मि, यानी कि तुम सब स्वयं परमात्मा हो, ये कहता है अद्वैतवाद. अपनी आध्यात्मिक जो हमारी भारतीय जो योद्धा है, जो हमारे वीर सैनिक हैं, उनकी परिपक्वता इतनी ज्यादा है कि इसके कारण भारत के सभी योद्धा, सभी सैनिक स्वयं के आत्मा की ताकत को, अहम ब्रह्मास्मि को समझ पाए हैं, और वे तब तक नहीं रुकते. दिस इज अ स्पेशलिटी ऑफ इंडियन वॉरियर्स, इंडियन सोल्जर्स, जब तक उन्हें अपने लक्ष्य की प्राप्ति नहीं हो जाती. हमारे वीर योद्धाओं की सनातन आदिकाल से ये खासियत रही है कि उन्हें युद्ध क्षेत्र में हमेशा सर्वश्रेष्ठ माना गया है, और किसी भी असंभव Captain Bana Singh, he had to scale an imposing height of the Siachen post. He did that. It was an impossible task to win the Bana post from enemies. He did that. He was successful. तो इन असंभव लक्ष्यों की प्राप्ति के लिए उन्होंने स्वयं का बलिदान देते हुए भारतीय सैनिकों ने कभी एक बार नहीं सोचा है. इंडिया में PTSD is a very recent phenomena, जबकि we have been seeing it कि ब्रिटेन हो, US हो, वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में PTSD is a big thing. They are literally running away from it. People are hanging themselves. People are dying. Every second soldier who has fought in Iraq or Afghanistan has PTSD. We don't see that in India because आध्यात्मिक तौर पे we are very strong from inside. हमारे जीन्स में, क्योंकि वर्षों से हमारे जो धार्मिक ग्रंथ हैं, गीता है, इनका पठन हुआ है, श्लोकों का पठन हुआ है. सो जेनेटिकली वी आर वेरी स्ट्रांग फ्रॉम इनसाइड. सो PTSD इज रेयर इन इंडिया, in Indian armed forces, even though they have been fighting bloody wars since so many years, even though they are in at conflict in the valley since years. But PTSD is rare because of the dharma, because of the dharmic nature of an Indian soldier. This is a fact. But why I'm not able to understand that why on earth our armed forces are trying to declare that the armed forces are totally secular. We are not secular. We are dharmic, and dharma is not religion. Dharma is the humanity, the way of life that India has to present, India has given to the world. It is for us to take. Ji.
Very good point you mentioned, and what you meant to say that instead of communal, what you meant to say was dharmic. Dharmic is not religious. Dharmic means commonsensical. Now, very good points you made. That is the individual bravery of Indian soldier. Everybody knows that. Saragadi, everybody. It's one of the best last man stands taught in the British military schools. Is the Saragadi, not anywhere else. You have seen 4 soldiers fighting against 4,000 or 21,000 rather. So
21 soldiers fighting
21,000 and 21 soldiers against 20,000 or something. Now the again the concept comes in the security of the nation, which I really like. Economic security, diplomatic security. Many agencies work together to ensure security of a nation, and military is the last option. But it is the most formidable option. The entire diplomacy runs on military strength. I don't think so any Western country respects India because of the values and the culture, because they don't think that way. Otherwise, why would a small country like UK maintain 7 or 8 nuclear submarines prowling all over the world? They are in HMS Invincible is in Indian Ocean right now. And then there are many other countries which are doing that. So if you see them, they are following, like I said before, also Kautilya Arthashastra, military doctrine, that they've put the hammer first and then they say, now let's talk peace. This is what they do. India, we have created a self-imposed restriction, and I'm not saying military, I'm saying the political class. Humne kisi pe akraman nahi kiya. And it's not, I'm not a warmonger. I don't want us to attack anyone. But that sidearm which is there, people know that Indian Navy is in our backyard. That just is a very psychological thing. Today China is not attacking India because they know that Indian army has everything to reach Beijing, when the need arises. So that itself is different notion altogether. Now, in the case on today's current affairs, if you see, and if you look at the history, recent history, ancient history, right from Ramayana period to now, in Ramayana period, Indian kings, Ayodhya, controlled as far as South America. Otherwise, why will Sugriv go to South America? What is the reason? Controlled as far as South America, unchallenged. It's literally unchallenged. They were going. Very expeditionary range now. If you look at the Vanar Sena going or Sugriv going. If you look at Mahabharata time also, we were challenging right till Mediterranean Ocean, straight over there. So there was no way they could even look at coming to the source of this force, India. They may not even know it, that India is the cause behind the military force sitting in Mediterranean Ocean region. Chandragupta Maurya. We have unlimited Chola kings, Chalukya, Pallava. In fact, the first European defeat of any European colonial power, Marthandavarma, did to Dutch. And Dutch became his protectors against Portuguese, which Portuguese destroyed Sri Lanka, but could not destroy, or Simal Desh at that time, could not destroy India. So don't you think this is a time to rethink the entire arrangement of the forces? Instead of just trying to create our borders, we need to have a buffer zone which goes into thousands of miles into enemy territory, where the war needs to be fought, not India. Like not in the near Kanpur, not after Nepal. Nepal is included in this area. The war has to be fought beyond Himalaya, in the desert over there, or the war has to be fought in Afghanistan or Iran, not in India. So, don't you think that change has to come, or it is already being discussed in the armed forces?
Definitely. It's a very valid point. Beyond going that point, I'd like to remind our views that in 1965, when there was the Battle of Asal Uttar, the true answer, which was fought in, I think, around 8th, 9th December 1965, Pakistan had the world's most advanced tanks, which were gifted to them by the Americans, known as Patton tanks. They had passive night vision, and India's old ancient tanks had no, they had no chance against the Pakistani tanks. I'm talking about night vision in 1965, the 1960s. It is an old, at that time India didn't have any modern army, but महाभारत के तीसरे दिन में, on the third day of महाभारत, अर्जुन ने एक अर्धचंद्राकार व्यूह की रचना की थी. इंडियन आर्मी के दो ऑफिसर्स, मेजर जनरल गुरबख्शी एंड कर्नल सलीम कैलेब, he was a Muslim, of course. And the other one was a Sikh, Major General Gurbakshi. They actually planned a अर्धचंद्राकार व्यूह and let Pakistani tanks come into their own den. इस व्यू के असल उत्तर के जो युद्ध हुआ उसमें जब उपयोग किया गया, तो एज जैसे कि द रेस्ट इज हिस्ट्री, असल उत्तर में पाकिस्तान लॉस्ट hundreds of their Patton tanks. The number is 100. So whenever India has gone back to its ancient way of war fighting, India has been successful. I think, personally, I think that, and history of wars have been witness to it, that a war should always be fought in enemy's lands. But India has that, when you study your education, the children's education is based on Macaulay's system of education. The self-respect that every individual of your country has becomes less. We have lost our self-respect over a period of time. So if we are able to regain that, and if we are able to inculcate the ancient way of education during first formative years to our children, then I think that the self-respect will come back. Then I think the aggression, that the natural aggression that we talk about when India, that the aggression that India saw during Ramayana time, during the ancient time of maybe up to Chandragupta Maurya, up to Chola Rajas, it will come back. But as of now, with the current education system, I don't think that our self-respect is coming back soon.
Like for every strategy, military strategy, and you are a military person, there is a counter strategy, not counter tactic. Counter tactics are on the ground, which nobody doubts. Indian soldiers, British have given World War I. They bring credit, not credit. We have asked for it, but they did not give on their own. If it was not for Indian soldiers, then the French will be speaking German today. If it was not for the Indian soldiers, then the entire Middle East will be Turkish territory by now. Ottoman Empire was controlling Jerusalem. So Israel would not have come into existence without Indian soldiers, whether World War I or World War II. North Africa would be speaking German if it was not for Indian soldiers. If it was not for Indian soldiers, then Indonesia will be a German territory. Everybody knows it. In fact, most of the Indian soldiers were even employed by the British to fight inside China. We did learn valuable lessons, but somehow we have, what I feel about India is, it's not the case with the US Armed Forces. US Armed Forces do not consider their boundaries as boundaries on their mind. Currently, what has happened, India has created the territorial boundaries as the boundaries of the mind. Now, these boundaries can stretch or not stretch, but they have to always increase. That is a dharmic injunction. The boundaries have to always go ahead, not sink. That's why you'll see regularly in the past, our kings have regularly, whether it's a Rajput kings in as late as 19th century, 18th century, or before, they always had a concept of expanding the boundaries outside, like westwards. Rajasthani kings were ruling, Sindh or beyond. Their influence was beyond, and the same thing is in north also. It was always expansionist model. Somehow we have now become that this is the map of India, and nobody is going to talk about it. Believe me, I tell you one thing: the day India creates in expeditionary force, America will be asking you, pick any weapon you want, please. Request you, pick any weapon, because they have trust on Indians, because they know that Indians have a common sense. They are not there to destroy people's rights. They know that. If you ask any American general, they will have huge confidence on Indians. They don't view Indians as a threat at all, generally speaking. And one or two are must be there who are paid by Chinese or Pakistanis. Other than that, majority 80% of forces like that, because people are looking towards India to stop so much of protectionism, like let us, that is a middle class mindset, right? So you have to just keep it like this. But if you look at Indian business houses, totally different strategy. They are all expansionist. And I'm not saying we have to be, expansion is a bad word because Chinese are doing it, but for protecting law and order. Just imagine if India was controlling Tibet, or Xinjiang, there'll be no human rights abuses for even Muslims. There will be no human rights abuses against Buddhist monks in Tibet. There will be no human rights abuses in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Armenia. Armenia, what Turkish did, 1.5 million Armenians were killed because of their faith, Christians. There will not be any such thing. So why don't we look at that side of thing? And by doing that, we will be protecting our culture more and promoting our culture more. That's adharma versus dharma. It's not Yudhishthira Maharaj wanted to acquire Uttar Kuru. He wanted to establish dharma there. Dharma means peace for local people. And everyone was flourishing. In fact, there are reports of Arjun being welcomed with gifts. With 5 million men, he was being welcomed over there. So don't you think it's a different type of diplomacy then? Or just we go there and talk and give $300 million, $200 million and then come back? That was not the case, because how much money you can give from here, then this bank balance goes down and that bank balance goes up. The other situation was India used to provide them net security, and that was the biggest dividend for them. Then they can earn their own money. What do you think on this?
It's a very valid point that India must look beyond its boundaries. And I must say that the Raj Dharma of a leader, of a ruler, is to protect his country, to spread the Dharma. And the best way to spread Dharma is to reach out to your neighbors through any means. And in particular, if you look at our current neighbors, China and Pakistan, they are a kind of rogue people. So, but unfortunately, we had rulers or our prime ministers or the head of states who have been very, I must say that, very un-Indian in their approach while dealing with armed forces, while dealing with the power of empowering our armed forces. So that is how we have suffered a lot. Arthashastra says that until unless you have a powerful army, until unless you have a powerful armed force, you cannot. A country cannot prosper. A country can only prosper. The people of the nation can only prosper if you have a powerful armed force. We are in a process of building up our armed forces. We are in a process of making them modern at a very fast rate. The spendings have increased. We are making very huge progress in making India. We are producing weapons. We are developing infrastructure along the border. So much of border area was left unattended. That is why the enemy were able to ingress into our lands time and again. But as we have enough infrastructure, we have enough roads, we have enough development. Very recently, there was a 4G tower which was installed in Leh. We are building, we are developing our country, but unless we are able to safeguard our own nation, we are able to fortify our own nation, we won't be able to look beyond our borders. So first we have to build up our own strengths. Then I think that it's not, the time is not far away. I think within 1 or 2 decades, India will also start looking outwards.
The biggest mindset change was seen in the current leadership of India in the Balakot, which you mentioned very well in the book. And the viewers who are watching this show must get that book, Manan Bhatt, Mananbhatt. And he's a Navy officer. You search it on Amazon or anywhere else, get that book on Balakot airstrikes. Mindset change completely. Now, another thing which is mentioned in our Shastra, and you know better than me also, you are well studied, is that we invented the game called Chaturanga. Chaturanga became Shatranj, and then it is a chess. We are the home of chess, in which there is one specific cavalry, is the horse, which jumps. And it was told, generally, the artillery is that jump, generally. It converts to artillery. So your artillery should be able to cross the heights so that you can jump behind the enemy lines. And that is the whole purpose, that you attack. Being a civilian also, if you study all these things carefully, then this is a military strategy, that if there is a height or an obstacle, you go above it or under it. And the weapons were different, like completely different. If you look at US, I live here, it's my country as well. So if you look at this country may have very inferior weapons as compared to Russians. There is always a fight. Russians always come up with new technologies first, always. Hypersonic missiles, India uses one of them, which is BrahMos. And all these missiles, Russia comes up and US catches up. But they will never import from any other country. Whether it's Europe may have a Meteor or any missile they have better than American arsenal, but they will not. It is a policy that they have to use American weapons, and they create strategies around it. Like, for example, I'll give an example of, I'm a keen student of all these technologies. MiG-24, Sukhoi 34. Sukhoi 34 is a ground attack aircraft. And there is nothing like that compared in the whole world, even though they may have maintenance issues. But Americans will not look to buy that. Never. They will come up their own, or they'll develop an alternative strategy based on what they can produce. And that's how their strength comes in the battlefield. Even for the example, night vision goggles. It was pioneered by Americans. And now everybody has night vision goggles. Now they're working on a next frontier on night vision goggles. So there's a night vision goggle has a problem that it doesn't show the outside outskirts of a human body. It just shows the blur that there is somebody there. Now they can accurately pinpoint how fat the man is, how thin he is, how tall he is. So the person knows where to put their weapon on that target. Now, this is the way Americans fight. Indians have, if you look at the record of history of weapons being used, water weapon, air weapon, the cold weapons and other weapons which have been recorded in the history, there might be some researches, but I do not think so. We have that mindset of building our strength based on our weapons. However bad, F-16 was not the best. F-16 was developed in response to MiG-29. Everybody knows that. The F-15 was developed in response to a Russian plane. So where are we lacking in terms of that innovation? You'll never see American. They may buy British. They may buy, but they may buy sometimes Israeli, because all their fuses are Israelis. But they will never ever use any other country's weapons. Over to you.
I think that purchasing weapons from any other country should be declared as a dharma. Nowhere in our ancient history it is said, it is advised that you purchase or you buy weapons from enemy or from any of the nation, anybody else. India should have become self-reliant in defense manufacturing since ages. It's been more than 7 decades that we have got our independence. we cannot, we should not continue to cry foul. But there has been recorded sabotages of Indian technology by subsequent governments. There have been Marut, the project Marut of a fighter aircraft was sabotaged. There were people who tried to sabotage Tejas. There are attempts from certain sections in media, certain sections. I mean, there are some people. So there have been instances, and India is able to, in technology, has been able to withstand such rough weathers, and we are able to come out of it. And I think that through Make in India, we have made a slight adjustment that we'll accept orders, we'll give orders to those foreign companies who share the technology with us, so that we can at least catch up with the modern technology in 1 or 2 decades. Once we are able to do so, we must become 100% self-reliant in our defense production. Unless we are self-reliant, we won't. Defense manufacturing is a very good aspect for business also. We would be able to sell our technology, our weapons, our aircrafts, fighter aircrafts, our ships to our friendly nations also. So we are actually helping our friends in their defense also. So we have to do that, and India is catching up with all that we can. But as I said earlier, after 1 or 2 decades, it must be made very clear to the armed forces that if you think about purchasing any weapon from outside, it will be declared as adharma. So we have to put our every resource into it to become a self-reliant nation in terms of defense technology. It has to be done very soon. We are doing it, but more speed is required.
Yeah, the if you even though American industry is largely privatized, Lockheed Martin consortiums, Sikorsky, all these are privatized companies, General Dynamics, but there is a sense of deep patriotism in all those private corporations in USA. First of all, most of them are ex-service people. People do not know that. Majority of the employees are ex-service. That is a preference given to them because they carry that culture. So there is a mission-oriented production. So if any world war comes in, America will still be victorious because they will, Europe relied on them. Even though Europe starts all the wars, throughout the history, you see Europe starts all the wars. But they ultimately rely on America. It is their backyard, production backyard. And on the other side, there is a second production backyard is Russia. Chinese are the copycats. So Chinese, they pick up anything, just make anything. It's like fake it till you make it. So they will keep on perfecting it, and then they have. That is also a strategy. There's sometimes it is always better to, if you want to overtake somebody, you have to come at least on par with it. With India, the problem, not a problem, but India, the attitude is buy it. So what happens is, now the entire indigenous cycle stops because nobody in the world is going to pass technology. Like if you want to, if Malaysia says give us BrahMos technology, India will not give, definitely not give. It's a common sense there. But in the case of India, we expect others to part their core technologies. They will give only when it is 15-year-old minimum. That's the American defense policy. Unless they have an advantage over you, then they will not give. Like Sea Harriers. Sea Harriers are a great plane. Personally, I love them. I've seen them in action personally many times here in Marine Corps. It was the US Marines' most favorite plane. They did not, the US manufactures it, General Atomic manufactures it. And now they have replaced with F-35. Now Britain uses F-35s because both are similar vertical takeoff aircrafts. In India, the vertical takeoff aircrafts is written in Viman Shastra and other places. We don't have to go back, but now it's a very general knowledge. Don't you think that the defense production patriotism is as much needed as the armed forces patriotism?
Definitely, you have to be a patriot in every way. In particular, we talk about business, very recently we have seen on Indian Army Day, the previous Indian Army Day, on 15th of January 2021, we've seen that defense startup, which is led by a retired wing commander of Indian Air Force, has shown a performance of swarm drone technology, and it was the entire world took notice of it. So unless you have retired defense personnel in your startups, unless they are involved with the business of making defense equipments, there is less chance of success. The HL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, it also inducts retired Air Force officers in its cadre, and that is why HL is successful. I think that if any company in India wants to become a hub or wants to develop some good defense technology, it must include retired officers or ex-servicemen into its cadre. And patriotism or nationalism is a very strong word, and every individual, in particular, patriotism is not a cup of tea only. Should not be a cup of tea only for to be used for defense people or military personnel. It has to be followed in letter and spirit by each and every individual. In particular, if we talk about the armed forces officers who prefer purchasing technology, that is not patriotism. It's and technology cannot be developed by a click of a remote or just clicking your thumb. Every technology, every defense technology, or any technology which is complex, it takes years to build up. It takes, you evolve in a technology. If we are making Tejas MK1, then MKI, then you need MK2, then MK3, MK4. You will have a naval version of that aircraft. If you look at the making of a ship or a submarine, if you have Arihant, INS Arihant, India's indigenous nuclear submarine, on the next, when you have Arindama, then your technology will evolve. Then you have another set of submarines, that your technology will evolve more. So it takes years to build up a technology. What Indian experts or what Indian officers they want is you just go around shopping all around the world, have a tender and purchase things. It's not correct, and it's not patriotism. So there has to be a change, and I think that I've understood that the present Indian government, they have wrapped quite a few people up, and they have told them very rigorously, very categorically, that you cannot just go globe-trotting purchasing defense technology. You have to be part of it. If Indian Navy wants to have good submarines, Indian Navy wants to have submarines which can operate for a long time, or I should say nuclear attack submarines, Indian Navy should become a part of that manufacturing unit. Indian Navy should help or coordinate with the defense manufacturing unit in a way that we are able to manufacture those submarines in India only. We should have proper involvement from the armed forces. We should have, they should be made responsible for it, because unless responsibilities are fixed, armed forces officers will have the option to go globe-trotting purchasing modern technology, which is not correct in any way.
Last point I have in today's discussion, we have so when we talk about the police forces, police and other things, which is also part of security of a nation. If you look at even the colonial police models, most of those police forces, except USA has a very armed police, which is again a colonial legacy. They were protecting themselves against Native Americans. So now I don't know why, because Native Americans are fairly outnumbered, but still, the nation's security builds on protecting the local people, and generally policing is more covert than overt. It is behind the scenes. Policing is never in the front. Like if you start looking at somebody staring at some people, they'll naturally get offended. But if you do it in such a way that you're watching, but at the same time, you're not interfering, or you're not making others know that you're watching, that is the better police model. And it is dharmic as well. That's how Yudhishthir Maharaj never had a police. It was armed forces, secret services, judiciary, and that's it. Because that's how the population used to trust him, because he trusted them. Obviously, and there were security forces, secret forces, which are checking everything behind the scenes. And so the the colonial police model 1901 is still being used in India, where police was used by British to subjugate Indians. It was a colonial police, where police was standing with a danda or something to make sure that others follow. So what happens is, if you follow this police model, then your population becomes irresponsible, because they want somebody to, the mindset comes in that they will do whatever they want to do. If police catches, then only I will go away, and then I will respond. If they don't catch, then everything is legal, because no, you are not caught. That the criminal mindset comes out, you know. But if the police is not seen generally, but it is just like in UK police has no weapons, but the secret service is running, like there are more cameras in UK per square kilometers than anywhere else in the world. Anywhere else, the data center is huge, and it is outsourced to Indian firm, actually, by the way. And so don't you think a change is needed to remove that shackle of colonial mindset as well?
Uh, I have to go back to 1857 when the huge revolt, Indian Army revolted. It was probably the biggest shock that the British had in the subcontinent. After 1857, when the revolt failed, and the mutineers were sentenced to death. Most of the mutineers were sentenced to death. There were villages which were burnt. There were, after that, British had sent a commission that is known as Peel Commission. In its verdict, in its study, it advised about reforming the armed forces. It advised about reforming the police system in India. So, Army Act came into effect. So, the Indian Penal Code came into effect. These colonial laws, the Army Act, the Indian Penal Code, are still in effect, are still very much there, are still omnipresent in India. And we have a huge police force which is functioning on those ancient laws, on the laws that were basically made by subjugator, a colonial power which was planning, which was there to rule India. At present, when you have the country has got a freedom in 1947. Even after that, we did not change our laws. We did not change the Army Act. We did not change the IPC, Indian Penal Code. Change is imminent. It has to be done, but I don't think that it is happening very soon. There are major issues with even with entirely dumping the Indian Army Act or the Armed Forces Act, Army Act, Navy Act, Airforce Act. There are issues with completely doing away with the Police Act also, because IPC, Indian Penal Code also, because there is a system which is in place since so many years, and the rulers, the government is thinking that if we suddenly remove all the laws in a single day, since 1947, the successive governments have been thinking that we should not remove these laws in a single day, because it will lead to anarchy, and due to this fear, and eventually a political class has been successful in subjugating the natives, the Indians, in a way that the British did. So now it has come to a point that the political class doesn't want to change it. The political class doesn't want to remove these laws. And as you said, that through CCTV, through things which can be done in a covert way, it should not be, the police force should be omnipresent at every place, but should not be seen carrying weapons against its own nationalists. It has to be. There are many issues with the IPC. There are many issues with the Army Act, Navy Act, Airforce Act. These laws, these colonial laws, should be scrapped at an instant, and a new indigenized way of think laws should be created. But I don't think it will happen soon. It needs to change. That's true.
No, absolutely, because you cannot just remove everything, but slowly we have to move in that direction, slowly. And thank you so much, Mananji, and it is a pleasure to talk to you. And it is a great discussion to have with a person you have actually served, and you can think in these directions. I am not a tactical guy, so I cannot talk to you about most of what you do in the Navy. But as an author, we can think like in terms of how we can build the ancient knowledge system into today's perspective. Because most of the times, what I hear on the Indian channels and other places is jingoism, but you don't hear that in the Western countries. You'll never hear that jingoism. You will not see. They don't overanalyze, first of all, because they know their strength. They know they're very, very powerful. So they know their strength. So jingoism is not there. So there are some cool heads who make these strategies, and they purposely make themselves look weak in front of other people. Purposely they do it so that the navy, so that the enemy can catch it and do some mistake. They do that regularly, but they have every single thing. Nobody knows that there are two aircraft carriers sitting in backyard in an ocean. Nobody knows, and but there are two sitting over there, and they always keep rotating them. So thank you so much, Mananji, and thank you so much for all the viewers who are watching it. There are a lot of questions you're asking. You can ask on YouTube channel and share with your friends. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste, Aditya. Jai Hind.